following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia and Fury. It's a joy to be with you all once again. And speaking of a joy right here, right now, I get to speak to a legend of the California wrestling scene right here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is without a doubt the rude, crude, and tattooed punk rock powerhouse. He's big, bad, bustling, brawling Bo Cooper. How are you, bro?
What's up, brother? Wow, what an introduction. I appreciate that, man. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That's no problem, bro. I'm real pumped to learn a little bit about your journey in pro wrestling. And the last time I saw you perform was at XPW Killafornia this past April, taking on Silas Young. This was a crazy show. I wanted to kind of start things off by talking about something recent here. How was that experience for you? Because, my research told me that was your first match in a few years.
Yeah. I've been doing this quite a while. I'm 42 years old. I started doing pro wrestling when I was 15 when I started training. So, I'd never really stopped. So my body, obviously it's taken a toll on me. I thought I was pretty much done with pro wrestling after having my last match in ring was 2 years ago in August with Sabu for a company called Pro Wrestling Unplugged up north out here in Central California. I went down to the XPW show not knowing, what to expect. Rob said, yeah, sure, show up, kid, and we'll see what can happen. I was mainly there just to support the show and say hi to some old friends, my buddy Vic Grimes and Pogo, and the list goes on. I haven't seen those guys in 10 years. It's been a long time. So I just went down there, with my mind open, and whatever, could possibly happen, I'd be willing to do. And Rob, pulled me aside and said, hey, we would like to have you go against Silas Young. And I said, hey, man, he's a great talent. It was the opening show, and we went out there and we had a great match. And I have nothing but respect for Silas. Even though he cheated to win, he gave me the low blow and rolled me up with his sneaky status the way he did. But yeah, it was fun, man. The crowd took really well after not seeing me for so long. With it being my home state, Southern California, they took pretty well to seeing me again, which was awesome. So it was a good feeling, getting the pop that I did.
Yeah, that's cool, bro. Yeah, it was a great match, and I'm a big fan of Silas Young myself. So good to see you partake, and who knows what the future holds there. If there were more opportunities to work on future XPW shows, would you be willing to participate?
Oh, 100%. Rob Black, the controversy that goes around XPW obviously is there, which I love. The fact that 18 years ago, he brought something to California that a lot of federations never even got to do or see. And the fans never got to see, his extreme ways of doing business. And I was always, an admirer from afar, because when XPW was around, I was traveling the States trying to make a big name for myself. And I know he had his committed group of guys that he was pushing, and I always wanted to be a part of XPW. I just never really had the opportunity or the time, because like I said, I was doing my own thing, trying to make my name elsewhere rather than just staying at one spot. But yeah, man, I would love to be a part of XPW. I'll be around. I'll be at the next show. I know they have that amazing stacked card of some of the greatest women, come June 25th. That's a hell of a card, man. Those girls are some of the best talent out there right now. And for Rob to get all of them in a women's tournament for the new women's title, that's amazing. So I suggest anyone that hasn't gotten tickets for that show, please do so, because it's going to be a hell of a show.
Definitely. I've seen the participants as well. And all you need to do is put Camille on the card and I'm there. But adding in the other 7 ladies. It's going to be a hell of a show. But now I want to kind of move all the way back to the beginning here, Bo. I wanted to ask, as I usually ask everybody in the show, how did you become a fan of professional wrestling when you were a young man? Was there a moment where the bug bit you and you just couldn't get it out of your system?
I always had two passions in life, man. Pro wrestling was one of them at a very young age. And I always was intrigued by Halloween and horror, even at a very young age. You know, I used to sneak downstairs late at night and watch horror movies. And then I'd wake up on Saturday mornings and watch Rock and Roll Wrestling Connection, you know, the cartoon. And I was always intrigued by, you know, the larger than life characters like every kid would be. But, you know, I think I was interested in the beginning and I kind of lost, you know, a little bit of interest around maybe 7 or 8. And then when I was about 10, I really started watching it again and I became a huge fan. And my mom used to take me to all the house shows out here at the LA Sports Arena and the Long Beach Convention Center. And I once seeing it live, I knew that's something that I wanted to do. I became such a huge fan, collecting all the figures and having, you know, my comforter be WWF and my pillowcases and everything was just pro wrestling. I remember buying a leather jacket and going into elementary school. Well, my mom buying it for me, obviously, and then pretending like I was, you know, Bret Hart at such a young age, even though I was a big chunky kid. But what really got me into pro wrestling, well, the way I broke in was I was actually at a house show out here in Los Angeles. And I got there super early. All the wrestlers were loading in, you know, the building with their gear bags and everything. And I was just a mark kid trying to get autographs. And I told one of the wrestlers that walked by, hey, I want to do this one day like you. And he actually stopped, take the time to talk to me real quick. And he looked at me and he said, well, if you're serious, and he kind of looked at my mom and said, if he's serious, there is a wrestling school, you know, that's accepting, you know, students. And it was one of the first wrestling schools out here in California. It was the School of Hard Knocks. And that wrestler was actually Louis Spicoli. And he gave me the business number to call. And we called it. I think like a week later, my mom reached out and Bill Anderson answered the phone. And he said, well, how old is he? And at the time I was like, I think 11 or I think I was like 12, actually. No, I was 12. And they said, no, you know, you're too young, kid. Maybe come back in a couple of years. I said, okay. And then about a year and a half, man, later, or maybe 2 years later, I was listening to a kind of like a podcast back then, but it was through cable network television. And it was called Wrestling Shadow Man. And he kept mentioning the School of Hard Knocks. And I remember that being the school. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to do it again. I'm going to call them up. And I told them, I said, hey, I'm ready. I'm really willing to come down. They said, okay, come down, kid. Let's see what you got. So I drove down every Saturday morning, paid the tuition, got my ass kicked for like 6 months straight by a bunch of big, beefy guys and luchadors. And I learned how to take, you know, the bumps correctly. And, you know, then I started really wanting to improve myself because I was getting my, you know, ass kicked sweating every day and really wanting to learn the craft of this now that I've gotten through the hard part of, well, it never gets easy, but the hard part of, you know, the beginning. And then I was thinking in my mind, I was ready. And obviously my trainers, Jesse Hernandez and Bill Anderson, saw that I wasn't ready because I actually trained for 2 years straight. And I was getting frustrated, obviously, because I was like, hey, I want this. But they were such professionals. They knew, rather than, you know, just throwing me a silver spoon going, oh, okay, go out there, kid. They wanted to see me perform well because I was coming from their school. So I debuted in 97. I was 17. I'm so terrible with these dates, man. I should know this. May 4th of 97, I debuted as the Hangman under a gimmick hood. And I had my first match against a big old biker guy named Crazy KC. On my 17th birthday, I was gifted the flyer that I was on the anniversary show for the Empire Wrestling Federation. So quick little side note real quick. Louis Spicoli, the one that gave me the phone number, actually showed up to the day that I was there on my first day of training, and he remembered me, which was really cool. So that's why my homage to my finishing move is the Spicoli driver in honor of him, you know, since he's no longer with us. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool, man. I completely understand. 2 years would probably be frustrating to a young man wanting to get out there finally and do it. So how did the first match, the debut match against Crazy KC go? You know, after 2 years of waiting to get out there.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little I don't want to say disappointed because I was just happy that I finally got my big match. But I was under a hood, and, you know, obviously I wanted to be Bo Cooper because, you know, that's anyone's wants to be themselves, you know, in pro wrestling, or get the most pop they can for themselves. But once again, Bill Anderson and Jesse Hernandez were so smart that I had a baby face and long blonde hair at the time. If you can believe that. I'm bald now, more than you can. But I paid my dues with them. And it was one of those things where now looking back at it, I thank them very much, because if they would have thrown me out there as a babyface kid, the crowd might have not have taken me as serious instead of having an evil menace gimmick. But KC, man, you know, he was like a 330-pound, legit big ass biker dude. And I, you know, now I look like the big biker guy, but back then I was just a, you know, young kid. I was tall, a little bit chunky, but, you know, the match went very smooth. I remember him finishing me off with his full Nelson sit down, kind of like Bubba Ray Dudley does back in the day. He sits down with the guy, and that was the finishing move I took. 1, 2, 3, and then went on to have a battle royal that night. Got ribbed a little bit, you know. I got my tuitions. Louis Spicoli ripped my mask off and then took me down, covered me up, and just rubbed my hair and said, you know, put it back on, kid. And then that was it, you know. So it was an emotional, fun night for me to make my long journey of becoming a pro wrestler a reality, you know.
Yeah, that's super cool, bro. The South California wrestling scene in that time period, I haven't had the chance to talk to anyone that was at that part of the country in that scene at the time. So could you tell me a little bit about what the scene was like at that time, and the health of the independent scene there?
Yeah, you know, I get a lot of critiques nowadays from a lot of younger wrestlers, because I come from an era where you're actually in there with like grown men that are taking this shit so serious. I don't know if I can. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep saying.
No, I'm Australian. It's okay.
Okay. No, but I mean, you know, I was in there with guys that took this so serious, and I'm not saying people don't take it serious nowadays, but this was a man's world, and I was a kid, and they made sure that, hey, if you're going to be in this, you're going to get, you know, you're going to be known that we're going to not just take it easy on you. You know, I never really got hurt. No one tried to like kick my ass to the point where I was bleeding or anything, you know, but I got some pretty stiff shots, and they tested me. And to answer your question, back then, the locker rooms were very protective. They wouldn't just let anyone in there. You know, if they didn't know who you were, and you didn't know, or they didn't know that you came from a reputable school, or they never heard of you, and you're just some fly-by-night wrestler that they, you know, they're going to protect their locker room, they're going to protect their trainers, they're going to protect the show, and they're going to protect themselves. So it was almost like a mafia style attitude in a way. You know, if you weren't known, or you weren't trying to come from a reputation of a school that was known, you probably wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting, the differences between. There's just every time I've had people on the show that started in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. It's just interesting to see how different it is in different eras.
Well, the cool thing about, you know, back then, at least in California as a whole, there was only a few promotions that were like legitimate, really good promotions. And, you know, Empire Wrestling Federation, my home fed, was on top out here in Southern California at the time. Up north was like All Pro Wrestling. That was a big deal, you know, All Pro Wrestling, Roland Alexander, you know, God rest his soul. And then you had like the lucha scene, which was pretty hot, you know, like Martin Marin, who ran out of the Anaheim marketplace. You know, he had his guys that were all luchadors. But yeah, I mean, there was also, you know, obviously little feds here and there. I remember a promotion called NWC, National Wrestling Conference. I used to go up there in Vegas and watch the shows, and they had some of the biggest names on the cards. I mean, they had Ultimate Warrior, they had Mankind, Sabu, you know, guys that have made huge names for themselves, but they were on the independent level. So it was crazy for me growing up watching these guys. That was like my first taste of seeing an independent show, you know what I mean, with all the guys that I watched on TV for a long time. You know, I would tear down the ring and help out and give water and all that stuff. But yeah, so I mean, the territory, it was like territories, you know, it really was. Now there's millions of promotions. I couldn't even tell you who runs them. I mean, I see flyers every day on Twitter, Facebook, you know, and I just go, I don't know who to even contact if I want to get booked on these things, you know. I mean,
understood, bro. Was there a dream still in your system at that point to go to WWF or go to WCW, something like that. Was that the ultimate goal for you at that stage of your life?
Yeah. I mean, when I was first breaking in, obviously my dream was WWF. I wanted to be, where everyone else was, my heroes, the guys that I looked up to. And I started getting the attitude, well, I'm just as good as them. I deserve, I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Let's go. Let's put me on TV. Let's see what I can do. I got a tryout match in front of Bruce Pritchard. He looked at us and he said, hey, good kid. Thing that I always tell people is like, hey, how come you never went to WWF? I feel that at the time when I did get looked at, I was medium sized and I'm 6'3", right now I'm, pushing 4 almost, but it's one of those things where then I was probably 6'2", and I was probably maybe 320, which is a big guy, but you have guys that are like Undertaker, Kane,
yeah,
Rock even's taller than me. And then they weren't in the aspect just yet of bringing in cruiserweights. So I was kind of like stuck in the middle. That's the way I look at it. I mean, but other than that, I mean, if you ask me my main dream when I was a little bit older, I wanted to go to ECW. I got to, when Bill Anderson and Jesse Hernandez split the school, they went their separate ways. I think I was about 3 years in of having pro matches. I moved to Florida and I got my opportunity to train with Dean Malenko at his wrestling school. And Jeff Bradley was the original Dudley. And, he really liked me and he said, hey, you have a good look, kid, keep it up. And he kind of winked at me. So that was my hope that I would have kind of smoothed my way into that route because ECW in Florida was pretty hot. I was living with Gangrel and Luna Vachon at the time. They kind of had their house open for all the students that would come and train with the Malenkos that were out of towners. Every single guy that trained with Dean pretty much made it. Tony Mamaluke was there. He went to ECW. Yeah. JJ Perez went to All Japan or New Japan. I can't remember which one. And I got actually hurt. My knee got blown out. I had a real bad knee injury about 6 months into training up there. And I had to fly back to California, get my knee rescoped and all that. So, and then the school closed down. So there goes my opportunity. But I mean, and then ECW closed down.
Then they closed down.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting period of time in pro wrestling when ECW and WCW both go under in the space of 3 months of each other. Right. So now the options get very small if you want to get signed to a major promotion to all those independent wrestlers out there trying to get a contract. I wanted to ask you about 2002, 27th of October at a show called Children of the Night for CWA in Napomo, California, I think is how you pronounce it. You wrestle the HonkyTonk Man. I just wanted to see if there was a story there of working with a legend like HonkyTonk Man.
I've got the honor to work with a lot of old school legends, man. And I'll tell you, my favorite legend that I ever got the chance to be in the ring with when it comes to that old school, WWF, WCW kind of legend would be the HonkyTonk Man. The first tour I ever kind of like left the nest and went out of California was up to Oregon, around that area. And I ended up wrestling the HonkyTonk Man like 4 days in a row. And he took care of me, and I shut up and I just listened to him, and I didn't care what I looked like when it comes to having him, he didn't squash me. He gave me a lot, but it was one of those things where now looking back at it, I thought to myself, okay, I could have gotten a little bit more in, but at the same time, I knew I was in the ring with the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. So to answer your question, that night was a cool, fun time for me because I've already wrestled him probably like 3 or 4 times, and he came to a show that was run by my good buddy Billy Blade, who's still doing real well out there and having big shows. He runs the Micromania tours. Honky came in, and I was the heel, which was pretty different from what I was used to, because he was usually the heel and I'd be the big baby face and get the pop from the crowd. But I remember cutting a promo at Children of the Night and saying, hey, I said, I don't give a damn who I wrestle. What was the exact, now I got it all screwed up. It was hey, give me somebody out here to wrestle. I don't give a damn who it is. And that's the exact promo he cut for Warrior and SummerSlam. So that was fun, And I remember he kind of said, hey, Matt, why don't we go a little hardcore tonight, Bo? I know you're all tattooed now, and why don't we go a little hardcore? I said, what do you want to do? And he goes, I don't know, man. Give me a big chop. So that was his way of going hardcore. But man, I hope Honky's doing well. I really see I rarely see him on Twitter nowadays, but I know he's still doing things here and there, probably signings. I don't know if he's still working, but he's a great human being.
That's cool, bro. I had to bring that up because I'm a big fan of his. 2003, I believe this is the year that this happens. You win the EWF Heavyweight Championship for the first time. I would imagine that having that long journey to get there to be, given this opportunity to be the top guy for the company must have been quite meaningful for you.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I mean, it was long past due. My good buddy, Rick Knox, who's a referee in AEW now, he had a Southern California Wrestling magazine called Scrap. I think it stands for Southern California. I forget what it stands for, but it was Scrap magazine. And on the cover, it showed me with the title, my skull makeup, because I used to wear like Misfits makeup skull, here and there. And it said, finally, Brawlin Bo wins the EWF title, which was, true. And it was definitely one of the most meaningful things I've done. And it felt good that after all those years of busting my ass and staying loyal to Jesse and, and the Empire Wrestling Federation, that they would have given me the reward back and saying, okay, you earned it, kid. Here you go. Here's a title, run with it. So yeah, that was a pretty meaningful night.
Yeah, that's cool, bro. It's always good to hear those stories of how all the hard work finally paying off at the end and getting that payoff.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about GQ Money, your friendship with him, and having the opportunity to work for XPW at Cold Day in Hell. Yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit about
research, man. That's awesome.
Of course,
I don't mean to cut you off, but you did some good research. I like that.
No worries. I pride myself on it. But this is a loaded question. Working at XPW at this show, working with him. I know you're trying to make a name for yourself elsewhere, but I would have thought I would have seen your name on a few more XPW shows during this time period. Why was it so rare to see you working for this company? And please tell me a little bit about your friendship with GQ.
I'll start with the fact that, like I noted previously, like Rob Black had his group of guys that he loved, he had guys that worked. And GQ Money was one of them. He took a chance on a group of guys. He made them the characters that they became, and they worked very well on TV for XPW. And I was all over the place. And I think that he knew at the time, like, even if I don't even remember if he remembers me back then. I came into the wrestling school one time trying to get a job with XPW. And I from the vibe I got with Rob at that time, 18 years ago, if I can remember correctly, he wanted loyalty, which is understandably so, because he had a big thing going. He doesn't need to have a million guys travel all over and then have it come to XPW. So he wanted the originality of guys that were either established legends that he was bringing in that have already, been champions like ECW with Shane Douglas, etc. Or he wanted a group of guys that he could make his own that would be, special to XPW only. So that's the only thing I can say on that part. And I'm assumptuating, I guess, a little bit on that, but I pretty much am positive that's the reason why I never got the chance to work for XPW back then. Brian Katz is the smartest dude I know in professional wrestling. He's the most innovative. He's the most smartest dude I know when it comes to having a mind for the business, having fun ways of making a match more creatively visual. I mean, I know that sounds like a really cliche thing to say, but he comes up with some of the funniest, coolest things that I've never even seen in pro wrestling. Being a part of Cold Day in Hell with him was an honor. It was fun because he actually passed the torch and let me become his character of the Clockwork Orange gimmick. And he called me BB Coop work, which is Clockwork Coop work. So yeah, getting the chance to work with him in front of that big crowd, man, that was awesome. We really vibed well together backstage, personally, and in the ring. I was his like bodyguard manager type ordeal for that show. He had the rubber match with Angel, I believe that's what it was, and it was a great match. I got to be involved and beat up Angel a little bit, my old buddy Angel, a great guy. And if you've watched the match of that, you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to the originality, because GQ Money is in the ring at one moment, disappears while I'm kicking Angel's ass. The next thing you see is a cameraman pop up like a normal cameraman would on the apron, and then a fireball comes shooting out of the camera, and there's the win for GQ money when he unzips the hood and reveals it's him. So I didn't even know that was the ending. I mean, he wanted to keep that quiet because it was so spectacular of his disappearance. So, but yeah, man, I'm proud to say that I am friends with GQ, man, because he's done tremendous things when it came to leaving, the independent scene. Me and him had a great career versus career match. That was an amazing match for me and him because I think I was like 17 years in at the time. I'm so terrible with time frames. And he was like 14 years in. And the buildup in California, because people really didn't know who was really going to leave. I mean, that's the cool thing about that, because I could have been retired at 17 years, and I should have been probably, and he could have been retired at 14 years. But we had a great match out here in my hometown of Simi Valley, California at the Boys and Girls Club. It was a pretty packed house. And when he got signed to WWE, I was very happy for him. And he had a long run. I mean, he had a really great run, and his release recently, I felt sad, but he said, don't, because I enjoyed every moment of it. And it's one of those things where now he can say he put his mark on the WWE legacy when it comes to creating, NXT guys and helping them begin their journey,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised to see that he got released because he'd been there for some time, I'd only ever heard really good things about his input with the company.
Right.
Think there'll be ever an opportunity going forward where you two could reunite in the scene somewhere?
I would hope so at one point, but I mean, yeah, I'm kind of over that, whole thing, Bo. That's the way he says it to me with his smile. We call him Smiley, man. The boys call him Smiley because he has the big smile on his face all the time, and he's just like, I'm going in a different direction now, Bo. But you're still my buddy, But no, it's I would hope to, one day do something with him again. I mean, that it would be special just to hang out with him, at this point, because he lives in Florida now. But we talk, we're on the regular. We keep in contact. He's a busy guy, and I just saw that he took a booking for a company up in Florida. I heard it went well, and they had some legends on it, like Bruce Beefcake or something. Boca Raton Championship Wrestling, I believe it was called. So it's cool to see him finally get back in the wrestling scene. It was only been a short while since he got released, but I know he was trying to work on some music stuff, which he's a very talented guy with music as well. I mean, I'm surprised record labels aren't calling him up every day trying to get a gig with him, because he's really talented with music.
Right.
But he's doing it. But he's doing the podcast. You've heard his podcast, right, with Brian BG James?
Oh no, I did not. I wasn't aware. No.
So Road Dogg, it's called Oh You Didn't Know, and Brian Katz have a podcast now, and it's on Spotify. Yeah, it's on Spotify, and it's fun, man. I think there's only 3 episodes up right now, but I definitely have enjoyed listening to it. It's really cool to hear them vibe together.
Oh, Bryce, sorry, I'm just having a bit of a hard time with my headphones here.
It's okay. Can you hear me?
I can. It's just for some reason my headphones have disconnected from my computer.
Technical difficulties.
It's just so annoying now. I'm going to have to fix this in post-production.
It's all right. I know how it is. If we were live, pal, that'd be one thing.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know what is with this computer, but sometimes the headphones disconnect and then all of a sudden your voice is coming through the computer. Okay, we're back to normal now. But all good. That'll all be recorded. So it won't
you can edit it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, the next thing I wanted to ask you about, because I tried to find as much information about you as possible. I had seen in another interview that you had wrestled in Mexico, but I couldn't find any information on any of those matches anywhere.
Neither can I. If you find them, let me know, because I've been searching for years on them. I mean, I don't even know what date it was. I know that it was there. I was there, and I wrestled in Tijuana at the world famous auditorium. I was actually dressed as Doink the Clown for my first time. It was me as Doink the Clown. HonkyTonk Man was my partner, and Parato Morgan. And we went against the luchadors known as Los Brazos, which was Super Porky and his brothers, the Arms.
Right, yeah.
And that was an awesome experience, even though I forgot my wrestling boots somehow. I don't know how the hell that happened. So I had to use a pair of Asics, which, Didn't look too great. Like, what can I do? I don't know how I didn't pack my own boots, but I always get ribbed for that still to this day with my trainer. But yeah, that was an amazing experience. I was nervous as hell. I mean, I was, a gringo in these people's worlds. So was Honky. I mean, I think, from my point of view, having the chance to, there was probably 10,000 people there. So it was huge. I mean, that auditorium fills up to the brim. And, when that crowd, that was the first time that I got to be in front of a crowd that was just deafening. You can just totally hear you can feel the energy, I should say, it was awesome. I mean, the guys took it pretty well on me. They didn't kick my ass. I was kind of nervous at that because I'm a gringo going into their world. But Super Porky, man, he was super fun, and he took no liberties on me. We had a good match from what I remember. And just being there with my trainers and getting the opportunity to wrestle in a different country, that's amazing to me. And then I went back one other time, and I wrestled as myself. I got my ass kicked by a local luchador, Black Shadow. It was a smaller show at the time. It wasn't anything, like the auditorium was. But I just wanted to go back and experience it for myself and see, what it was like as Bo Cooper rather than, Doink the Clown. But it was still fun, both trips. I mean, I regret nothing on either one of those because it was an awesome experience.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be pretty interesting going down there and seeing the difference between working in front of the American audience than the Mexican audience. Another guy I wanted to ask about you working with. I don't know how many times you worked with him. I just saw that it was one time. Could be wrong. 20th of October 2007, Necro Butcher. What's it like working with Necro?
Well, I'll tell you, man, I don't fear a lot of people. And, at that time, Necro Butcher was hot on the indies. I mean, he's still going strong, man. I showed up to that building, preparing myself for a fight. And that's what I got. I got a fight. Talking to a guy like Necro Butcher, you wouldn't think that he's as hardcore as he is because he's very soft, well-spoken, very humble, very cool, but he'll punch your fucking lights out, man. And he gave me a good shot, chipped my tooth a little bit, and I gave him one right back. And then we went and had a couple beers, but he definitely brought the fight to me. I was in a town that I was very well known at, and he had to, show those fans who were cheering for me all night who he is, because it was more of a local bar crowd type of crowd rather than a diehard wrestling crowd. But they enjoyed every minute that we kicked the shit out of each other. We did the tables, the chairs, the thumbtacks, the sitting down bar fight, punch. Necro's great, man. Necro's great. That was another guy that I was excited to see and catch up with at XPW. So it was really, I mean, man, he's put his body through the ringer, and I'm glad to even see him with us because he went through a very bad sickness. And I don't want to touch base on it too much, but from what I know and from what he told me how bad off he was with health, and going out there at the last XPW show and just taking it to, I think he wrestled 3 guys that night, and it was all 3 of them were just brutal matches. So
yeah,
I mean, he's definitely a tough son of a bitch, but good friend. I like Necro.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I just, I had heard that he wasn't well for quite some time. And so I was surprised at how he seemed like after all the years of abuse on his body as well, how he seemed like he was in quite good shape at Killafornia.
Yeah, he looked good out there, man. I mean, he was kicking ass, taking names.
I kind of wanted to ask you about, being on the road. Do you have any fun or scary road stories? I know traveling, there can be a lot of near misses here and there, or any fun stories of, spending time in the bar after the show?
Oh, I mean, it's always the best part of the night, man, is when you got a good match under your belt and you go have that feeling of adrenaline rushing through your body, and that you did a great performance for the craft that you love, for the fans that paid their hard-earned money, and they show respect. And then you're hanging out with your friends afterwards, having some cold brews and talking over fun situations. And, as the night progresses, guys will be guys. And then, you get to see some fun ribs play, take their part. I mean, I've seen a lot. but also, getting just the chance to bond with your friends out there, or guys that you've never even met that you do become friends with, like, for instance, Silas Young, man, what a great talent. I knew who he was. I was aware of his work. I never really, watched him a lot because I don't watch wrestling that much anymore. And, but he's been doing it longer than me. I think he's been doing it like 26 years or 25 years. And, we had a mutual respect for each other right after the match. And we went and had a beer area in the back and said, thank you. And, stuff like that is what makes pro wrestling, fun for me now, because my body can't go the way it used to anymore. But being on the road, I mean, if you would say, I mean, I've traveled to, Arizona, Colorado, Mexico, Florida. I mean, I've been other places. I just can't remember right now. Vegas, my wife's like trying to name places. She always was with me, man, at the time. She's my road dog. But yeah, I mean, being on the road and just meeting new talent is always cool. And, seeing who out there, seeing other people's craft and what they can perform, like compared to, some of the matches I've seen out here, is always cool. And yeah, I mean, there's always fun stories after, I remember one story, we ribbed this kid. This is just a random rib. 3:00 in the morning, knocked on his door, set up a big set up a trash can filled with water to the brim, like the big trash cans, tilted it, knocked on the door, and just ran. And he opened it, and you could just hear the water flooding all over his room. I'm surprised we didn't get sued for that, afterwards, but I don't think no one knew who we were. But just stuff like that, fun, innocent little ribs, never bothered, never did no harm to anyone,
I like that. That's a good one. Jimmy Superfly Snuka, I just want to ask if it was true that you work with him. I couldn't find any footage or anything like that, or any match results or time or date or anything like that. But I have
pictures of it. Yeah, I have pictures of it. Yeah, Jimmy Snuka, man, that was an opportunity I got in Arizona, which is about 7 hours from where I'm at right now. Bill Anderson, Jesse Hernandez got me the gig. I went up to a federation up there, that was local to them, Arizona, and I got the opportunity to be in the main event, man, with Jimmy Snuka. They needed a big heel so that could put some heat on him and have his big comeback with the splash. I remember being a little nervous with that because he was very quiet and he was smoking like crazy, man. He was just, puffing. We'll go over in a minute, brother. And I just sat there. I said, whatever you need, Jimmy, I'm here for you, brother. You let me know when. And then I think it was probably about 20 minutes, not even 20 minutes, probably like 15 minutes before we went out. He just said, put the heat on me. I make my comeback, brother. Big splash, we go home. I said, you got it, sir. And it was fun. It was great. That fucking splash though, man, hurt. I remember that. And I was thinking to myself, like, after all those guys he's done that to, especially off the top of the cage, I figured, it wouldn't have been so bad. And I'm not saying he did it on purpose or anything, but it definitely, he's a buff guy. Even back then, he was a little bit older. He's probably, I don't know, 57, 60 years old at the time, maybe. And him come crashing down on my ribs, I was like, oh, but I mean, it was great. I mean, giving the footage that I have of the 2 pictures that I have is definitely a life cherishable moment for me to wrestle a guy like Jimmy Snuka as well.
Cool, bro. I also want to ask you, through your time in pro wrestling, in any of the companies that you kind of spent more time at, was there an angle or some sort of story that you're most proud of being a part of? Maybe like a feud with a certain performer, any sort of angle that really stands out to you as something that you're proud of?
Well, definitely the GQ Money career versus career match. I mean, that had a big build up to it. Like I stated previously, that was a fun build up that I think a lot of fans in California really wanted to figure out what was going to happen. Most of the time at pro wrestling fans are pretty smart and they can determine, hey, I think this is what's going to happen. But I really feel that they did not have an idea of who was going to win that, because he was a champion at the time in the company when I beat him. It wasn't for the belt. I remember having good matches with the very young, talented guy out here that has kind of drifted off the scene, but he could have made $1 million in this business. His name was Mikey Henderson, Suicide Kid, and he's done a lot back in the day. He had many tryout matches with WWE. He broke in the same time I did, and he was a very, very muscular kid, very athletic, very, very good body. And we had matches when we were younger, and I remember just having it flow so smoothly because he was so talented. And I was green. He was green, but he also had a lot more. I think he had like 2 years on me. He had 2 years already in the ring. But I remember when I got the opportunity to work him, I loved every second of it because it was just such a great match. We could just do moves and moves and moves, and he would make me look good. And some of the stuff he did was so innovative. I remember him giving me he would hook his arm. He would go to the top rope. I'd be against the turnbuckle. He'd hook his arm like a reverse DDT, and he'd do a front flip, and I would take the bump forward. So I haven't seen that ever anymore. I mean, unless someone does that, I haven't seen it. That was always fun working Mikey Henderson. One of my funnest matches was me and Sabu, man. I mean, I would say that being in the ring with Sabu, I always wanted to work him. And that's why I thought to myself, hey, that's perfect closure. After a 23-year career, I'll go ahead and take it home. What a better way to have a big, tough guy like myself, rude, crude, tattooed, be in the ring with the homicidal, suicidal, genocidal Sabu and have it in my career. But I got the itch, and most like most wrestlers do, they come back somehow, some way. But yeah, man, Sabu's great. I was really sad after the fact, because I want to say, it was probably only a couple months after, I got the news that, Jeannie passed, and that was really, really sad. That was really, really sucks. She was great. So yeah, man, that's always going to be a bittersweet moment for me to be in the ring with them too,
Yeah, I had interviewed him, and it wasn't a couple months later, because I remember hearing her in the background, kind of reminding him of things when I was asking him questions.
What year was that? Because I'm really terrible at time frames, so I know.
Let me just quickly check, but he would during the interview he would kind of forget what he was talking about, just because he'd go off on tangents and all that. It says I put the interview out a year ago.
Okay.
So
maybe it was like almost a year after the fact, because I remember I know that I was talking to her maybe about 4 months after the fact that I was in the match with her. So yeah, it was only a couple months, and then I realized that she passed away. I was like, I don't know, but yeah, that's really sad. I mean, I feel bad for the guy, because I talked to him here and there through Messenger just to check up on him, and he tells me all the time, man, I'm hurting, I'm breaking, my heart's breaking.
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't? That was the love of his life,
Yeah, definitely, bro.
But definitely Sabu was on my top list of having a good time in there in the ring with him.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Millennium Pro Wrestling. Seemed like it's something that you've been a part of in the last few years, at least. Tell me a little bit about MPW.
Well, when I was a part of MPW, I was their champion. I beat Ryan Taylor. I had the career versus career match with GQ money through MPW. I was presented with the Hall of Fame plaque from the owner and the operator of the federation. And I was a trainer there for a while. For actually 2 years, I was training some of the guys that would come through, try to be pro wrestlers through the school, the Millennium Wrestling Academy. I don't want to dwell too much on that because it's a negative time in my life, but it's one of those things where certain situations changed, political ways played their parts, and things happened there where I never really got to say my truthfulness of a story that was told, and little situations that came about to make it where I would look like the bad guy. And I know in my heart the truth. People that know me, such as legends in this business, know who I am, know that I'm a good person. And there was just some bullshit accusations and weird, nothing too crazy, just a bunch of kids trying to act like I was bullying them, pretty much.
Right.
And then so we ended it, and I said, hey, you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, that's it. So
No worries, right? Sorry, I had no idea that.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's a part of my history, and that's it's bittersweet for me too, because there was so many great things that did take place through MPW, and I'll always remember those in a good light rather than have it end on such a negativity of like I stated previously, man, when we first started talking about how the business has changed. I maybe needed to be more open-minded on the aspect of going with the time changes rather than being so old school and focusing on the way I was taught and the hard hitting and just trying to really, press the issue of training and how important it is. Nowadays, everyone wants to play wrestle and they want to just show up with their buddies and go to a school and get handed belts. And I'm not for that, and if you're going to pay your dues in this business and you're going to try to become a pro wrestler like I was taught, and you're going to be under me, I'm going to teach you the right way. And if you don't like it, then you can say whatever you got to say and call me a big bully, but I know the truth. So
yeah, no, fuck that, bro. The old school way is the only way as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, shit, I wish, I mean, and I'll never change who I am as a person, as a trainer. I mean, I have my ring in my garage. I got my little small group of core students that I'm still continuously to train, and they're doing really well. But even with them, I see nothing negative, but I see the difference in generation of people, you know what I mean? Compared to, it's just a different world out there now, man. It's just a different world. And these kids, they just want to be pro wrestlers like I did at one point, but it's a different way of going about making you a pro wrestler than it was when I was getting broken into.
Right. Very interesting stuff.
If that makes sense. I mean,
it does.
I know it sounds cliche.
No, it makes a lot of sense. The health of the California indie wrestling scene today. I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on the current scene over there in California.
As in, like, is it going strong, or what do you mean health?
Yeah, is it going strong? Like, how is it going? Are there a lot of companies around there at the moment? I know we've got XPW that pops up here and there now, but
yeah, I mean, there's some. I mean, you got PWG, which is always drawn out, sold out. Shows. They fly in some of the top talent guys from indie shows that are hot. You got companies like. I mean, like I said, I haven't watched wrestling in a long time. I read the results here and there. I know there's a company called PCW that does really well. They sell out big venues. Santino Brothers, me and Joey Chaos are old school friends. He's doing pretty well with his continued success with all his students. I mean, he has guys all over the world that he's trained. Santino Brothers are doing shows again now, and it looks like they're doing pretty well. So props to Joey on that. Empire Wrestling Federation, my hometown, is still the longest running federation in all of California. So they're still selling out shows. They just had their big anniversary show, man. So yeah, there's some pretty decent shows out here in Southern California that are drawing well, and seems like the wrestlers are happy with the continued work.
Excellent. I have to kind of move away from wrestling here because I want to ask you about your passion for punk rock and your passion for horror movies and films, characters. How did you fall into becoming obsessed with this stuff? How did you become a fan of punk? How did you get into horror?
Well, the horror, like I said, man, I've always found it Halloween fascinating. The holiday itself. I loved as a kid, going out in the night and seeing all the jack-o'-lanterns on the streets and dressing up in scary costumes as a young kid. And then I really loved the anarchiness of the holiday of anything can happen, like the craziness of Halloween. But when it comes to the horror movies, I started watching horror movies behind my mom's back at a very young age. I remember the first time I saw Children of the Corn, and the dirt rolling and the sacrifice of the corn. And I mean, she definitely didn't want me to watch these movies, but I would somehow find a way to sneak down and turn the TV on very low at the middle of the night, which is pretty weird to be a kid wanting to see blood and guts, but that's just what I loved, man. I remember raising enough money, man, with my buddy washing cars in the neighborhood to go see Pet Sematary and getting scared shitless because Zelda, that movie freaked the shit out of me. And The Exorcist, I saw that at a very young age. I was actually 3 a.m. it came on. I fell asleep in my bunk bed or something. I don't remember. And I turned on the TV, or the TV was on. I remember waking up to the screaming of it and watching it. And I was just petrified. So I put my cover. I was 11, dude. So yeah, that just stuck with me. And then I always just loved horror movies. I always went to the VHS rental store and on a Friday or Saturday, and I got a bunch of snacks and watched horror movies all weekend. You know, rather than playing video games, I was a horror movie nerd. And then when I got older, I started going to conventions out here in California. They have big conventions called like Monster Palooza. And I started becoming friends with some of the biggest horror filmmakers / makeup artists / businesses that are producing props and masks and costumes. And I networked myself into becoming cool with all these really respected, well-known horror people. And people don't realize how big of a genre this has taken. It's, across the nation. I mean, horror conventions are selling out just as big as Comic-Cons now. And I actually became friends with a guy named Chris Zeffro, who owns, and Justin Mabry. There's two guys that own Trick or Treat Studios. And I became friends with them. I was a fan of their work. I would buy all the Halloween masks from Trick or Treat Studios. And I had obviously a job growing up besides just pro wrestling. I was always good at sales and talking and doing business here and there through different companies, selling products of different types of merchandise and stuff like that throughout my sales career. And I told him, I said, if you ever need a guy in sales, let me know, man, because I could, sell these better than any passionable thing that I would try to sell, And he said, oh, I'll keep you in mind. And then opportunity struck its course, and I got a call from him, and we signed a contract, or not contract. We signed a deal to have me become a part of the company, and it's been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, man. It's my passion, it's my career. I've been with Trick or Treat Studios now for 4 years, and it's a blessing. So. Are you familiar with the company?
I'm not. No, I haven't really watched a lot of horror films in my time.
Yeah, from what I can see, you're more of a Roger Rabbit and Bart Simpson kind of guy.
Finally, someone noticed that it was Roger Rabbit. Very cool. I've been waiting for someone to bring it up.
That's my little story when it comes to the horror scene. I mean, I'm wearing the Wolfman shirt. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a Wolfman shirt right now.
Yeah, cool.
But punk rock music, I mean, I just loved it since I was a little kid, teenager, I should say. First album I ever bought was Misfits. That's why when I would wear the skull makeup years ago, I would always give the homage to the Misfits, because I always thought they were one of the coolest punk horror bands in the world. And, obviously getting older and listening to some of the bands like Circle Jerks and Black Flag and, Dead Kennedys and, there's so many to name. But yeah, I love the aggression. I love the whole style of expressing yourself on stage with anything that can happen type stuff. When it comes to those lyrics, it's just awesome.
Yeah, cool, bro. Yeah, I'm a big punk guy too, especially the old school stuff. Speaking of horror, I wanted to ask you, this is the last person I'm asking about having worked with. Speaking of horror, you worked with a human horror film, Supreme, in 2009. May he rest in peace. Just want to know, because California, there was a tribute to him and all that. I wanted to just hear if you had any personal stories of working with or knowing the man known as Supreme.
I got to work with Supreme through his cousin Chaos for Santino Brothers Wrestling Promotions. I think the first match that I had with Supreme was in Newhall, California, and I think we tagged. Maybe I wrestled. No, we wrestled each other first, and he is the man that brought hardcore pro wrestling to a different style in California. I mean, he is the man that took so much shit on his body and just put his body through the ringer for the fans. I mean, he's the human horror, film. I mean, he literally would just give his body to show the fans that he's one of the baddest motherfuckers out there. And, me being in the ring with him, I didn't do as much crazy stuff as he did, the light tubes and the crazy bumps that guy took. But I respected him from his legacy of being one of the hardest hitting motherfuckers in the business, and we hit it off pretty well. I have nothing but love and respect, and it's a sad tragedy of that he's no longer with us. And then I got the opportunity to tag with him afterwards. That we did a storyline where Joey said, "Hey, you guys are two badass tattooed big dudes. Why don't you become a tag team and wreck some dudes?" So we got the opportunity to do that a couple shows, and which was super fun, super super honorable. And then I remember doing we did. I think that was the only time. Yeah. So I think I wrestled maybe like twice, and then I tag teamed with him maybe 2 or 3 times after that. So it was a fun time, man. And me and Supreme definitely had some good stories and times to share, man, because he loves horror too. So right off the bat, we became instantly horror homies, you know.
That's cool, man. We get to the tail end here, Bo, of this interview. I wanted to give you the opportunity now to plug anything that's going on right now, or let your fans out there know what to expect next from Brawlin Bo Cooper.
Well, they can always follow me on Instagram. It's Brawlin Bo 13. I post, any upcoming shows on my story if I have some shows here and there. This is something that I'm going to ride until the wheels fall off, and my body's pretty shot, but I'm not going to ever not be a part of pro wrestling. I'm not just going to walk away from it. It's in my blood. It's in my brain. It's in my fists. And, the next thing that I can say is just keep an eye out, man, because, XPW is getting big again. And, after not being here for 18 years, I think from just having one show so far, and then the next show they're going to be doing definitely is going to just continue the wave of righteousness. So keep your eyes out for some awesome shows coming up with them. I'll be around. And then Pro Wrestling Unplugged up north. I work for Billy Blade still, and he has, I think the next show is June 15th. He has Brian Kendrick on the show, I believe, and he has Crime Time, not the one that passed away. I forget the other guy's name. What's his name? JTJ, yeah. So that'll be awesome. And Billy always does super well when it comes to drawing big fans up north. I mean, he has probably like 400, 500 people that show up to the shows up in Santa Maria. So that's always an awesome time. But yeah, man, I'm taking care of my guys and training students. If anyone's interested, they can always hit me up on Instagram if they're serious. It's nothing fancy, but I'll teach you the right way. Hit me up at Brawlin Bo 13. And thanks for supporting, that's all I can say.
Yeah, no worries, bro. And everyone down there in the description on YouTube, when this finally goes out, all the information on how to contact Bo will be there. Cool. Brawlin Bo Cooper, getting to the final segment here of the interview. It's called 5 Second Frenzy. The rule is supposed to be 5 seconds to answer each question, but it doesn't matter. It's just an unnecessary
one-liners, right?
Unnecessary bit of pressure for people. But here we go, bro. Who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Oh, that's such a hard one, man. Are we talking as a youth or are we talking as a worker? Because I mean, if I had to say, I'd say Warrior as a kid and then Owen Hart.
That's cool. No worries. 2 fantastic answers. If you could pick one person that was your favorite opponent to work with over the years, who would it be?
GQ Money.
Excellent. Do you have a favorite match that you performed in of all time?
I probably would say with Honky, man, just because of how well he took care of me and how fun it was, getting to work with someone that I really adored as a kid, watching him be the cocky heel and the music and him being an Intercontinental Champion and all that. So yeah, I would say HonkyTonk Man.
Excellent. Finally getting away from wrestling now. Favorite book?
Shit. Favorite book? Oh man, you're making me think here. Probably I haven't read a book in years, man. Can you tell? What's that? Yeah, my wife said the Bible. Sure, I'll go with the Bible.
Yep, no worries. It's a fair choice. Favorite TV show?
Three's Company.
Very nice. Do you have a favorite film? I know this will be difficult for you.
Give me a genre. You got to at least give me a genre. Favorite film of what genre?
Horror.
I mean, if I have to go with horror, I'm going to go with Halloween 1978. I mean, I have it tattooed on me right there. So, I mean, although I do love Halloween 3. I'm a huge Halloween 3 guy, believe it or not. I have that tattooed on my head. So, but yeah, I would go with the John Carpenter classic 1978 of Halloween if I had to choose one horror movie all around.
Excellent. Favorite musical artist or band?
Social Distortion.
Nice choice. Getting away from the arts now, finally. Favorite food?
Sushi.
Very good. Do you have a favorite place to eat on the road?
Definitely not Waffle House because I've never been there, even though that's the mainstay of all the indie workers. I mean, Denny's, I guess. If Denny's is horrible, but that's the main place everyone ends up all the time, you know.
Yeah,
So,
no,
sorry, Denny's. I don't mean to call it. Sorry to the people out there in Denny's. I don't mean to call you horrible, but I've just eaten it so damn much over the years of after shows because it's the only thing that's open where we can all sit down and be, you know, loud and obnoxious for the poor waitresses.
Yeah, we've had that answer on the show before. So, do you have a favorite alcoholic beverage?
IPA beer.
Oh, very nice, very nice. The second last one here of 5 Second Frenzy here, Bo. It's the naughtiest one of 5 Second Frenzy. Favorite female body part? You see a good-looking lady. Where do Brawlin Bo Cooper's eyes go to first?
I would say like if she has cute dimples and a smile, man. Honestly, I like a girl with like cute dimples and a smile. And if my wife's saying, "Oh, really?" I've been married for 20 years almost, man. So I'm sorry. I've been married since 2009, but we've been together for 20 years. So she's cool. She's one of the boys. She's traveled with me and, you know, she's gone in the locker room. So she knows, you know, it's all fun and games. But yeah, I would say a girl's pretty face if, you know, she has a nice smile. I'm a smile guy.
That's a fantastic answer, bro. And the last one
What do you
here,
normally get after that? I'm sure.
well, Don Morocco said that he was an ass man.
Well, I mean, I would beg to differ if anyone said they weren't, right? I mean,
I think my favorite one was Nikita Koloff saying he likes the shape of a woman.
I can see that.
That was an interesting answer.
That's interesting.
The last one here, bro, is favorite curse word, favorite swear word to shout out, or what would it be?
Fact. Fack. Fact.
I like that one too, bro. It's the first time we've had someone say that one for the show. But Brawlin Bo Cooper, what a joy, what an honor, what a privilege to have the chance to talk to you here today, learn about your time in pro wrestling, learn about the things that you like in life. It really means a lot to me that you took the time to talk to me. So I just want to thank you very much. And I want to tell you that you should be so proud of what you've accomplished in your life so far. And you've still got so much more to go. So just from the other side of the planet, congratulations on all of your success.
Hey, man, thank you very much. And I will say one thing, that I've done a million of these podcasts, and you did some pretty awesome research, and it's been an honor to talk to you. And I thank you from the other side of the planet as well. And hopefully if you ever come out here, we can have an IPA together if you drink beers.
Sounds good, bro. Excellent. Well, thank you again, bro.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
And thank all of you out there for checking out the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm Karlifornia. This is my new pal, Brawlin Bo Cooper. And we will see you down the road. Thank you.